What's up and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look what's going on in pop culture. My name is Pat Sheehan. I'm here with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, I think we gotta give a bit of a eulogy here for our favorite product ever, MoviePass.
We knew it was too good to be true.
Way too good to be true.
We knew it wouldn't last forever. We didn't expect it to be so abrupt and so inconvenient.
We got a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about today. We got Santigold, Denzel Curry, both dropped new albums. We're going to be talking 8th Grade and a lot of Mission Impossible. So if you like us, if you support the pod, please hit subscribe. Follow us on SoundCloud and on Twitter at NowstalgiaPod. But man, Thursday night, I go to look at showtimes for Mission Impossible the next day. And I'm like, this is a weird message. I just clicked through it quickly, figuring they're like, hey, check out peak pricing again. Go to use MoviePass the next day. Mission Impossible wouldn't even work. It was all grayed out. Wouldn't let me select. I was like, what?
Premium showing.
Yeah. Annoying. So I text you. We start doing a little investigative work, and MoviePass had a service outage Thursday because they're out of money.
Couldn't pay for tickets. So whoever was facilitating that shut it off.
I mean, as of Saturday, actually, I went back to the movies to watch 8th Grade. MoviePass was also not working for me then. Yeah. I know some other people it was working for, but online it was kind of mixed.
Stopped working Saturday afternoon again after coming back, after being out a day. So I was able to use it that Saturday morning, but then it went out again Saturday night.
Well, Dave, I'm just going to ask you, is MoviePass dead?
It's certainly on life support. I think the MoviePass we all knew is dead as a door now. Interesting thing you can just look at is Helios Matheson, the analytics firm who, bought MoviePass and was owning it really since they got picked up a lot of steam last August when they dropped the price to $9.99, and their shares were so low they did a reverse split to avoid being delisted on the NASDAQ because their share was so cheap. And if it didn't have this reverse split, the shares would be a few cents. It's super, super cheap. And the reverse split, by all the business research I did, was designed to get people to buy the stock because the stock was now worth more.
Right.
But no one's buying because no one believes in it. And, they ran out of money because they disclosed this in April. They've been losing $20 million a month because they just weren't taking in as much money. And, we expected that they would start to make things more expensive. It only makes sense. You go really cheap to get in the user base, and then you start trying to make as much money back as you can. Amazon has done this, right? Mm-hmm. Raising Prime up year after year, Netflix as well. And that, most people would be okay with that. But to have peak pricing go as much as $8 a ticket really loses the utility for most people. And the fact that and this is kind of their whole thing, which is why they're tough to root for at the moment, is because their customer service and messaging has been so poor, and so abundantly tone deaf. It's you're not smarter than the internet. You're not smarter than the people that are smart enough to use your too good to be true service, right? So to say that peak pricing is based off of availability and demand, and then just to blatantly apply it to every showtime after 12 p.m., it is what it is. And then you saw the people online posting, why do you have peak pricing on this theater when there's 5 of us in here? Right. Oh, because your algorithm said that other people in another city really want to see it. It's just a bunch of BS because they need the money. Mm-hmm. And I think if it does last, we're going to see stuff like that. And I think what really, really sucks is the Mission Impossible Fallout, which is not available on the service this weekend. They're actively deterring people going to see the hottest movie of the weekend because it's a money-saving move. So, do I think they're immediately going to die? Yeah, maybe. Or they'll, be able to sustain themselves via some kind of investment. Don't know where that's coming from. But, yeah, it's going to be tough. So I've been trying to use it as much as I can now while it's still technically alive.
How many movies have you seen with it?
59.
59.
In 9 months.
And
it's $1 something a movie.
I was gonna say you bought the annual subscription, right?
So. I did not. No, I'm paying $9.99. So you paid what, $7.99?
Yeah, I think it was $7.99 a month, something like that.
So if someone else had the annual, I'd be betting even less if it was me.
Yeah, I think I've seen around 20, low 20s. So I'm coming around with $4 a movie, which is phenomenal, which is exactly why this is a service that can't last. And it's too bad because really it's a great idea. And, you know, you see AMC's A-list, which now it seems to be where a lot of people in bigger cities will go. I don't have an AMC near me, so it's not something I would be able to use, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, AMC is the biggest theater chain in the nation, and AMC A-list is twice as much, $19.99, but it does all those things that like the MoviePass, which is kind of inconvenient about, right? You can use it on 3D and IMAX, Dolby Cinema, no problem. You can reserve ahead of time. You can see more than one movie in a day. You can have a repeat viewing. So it's 3 times a week, so 12 times a month. I mean, I've used MoviePass 10 times a month, I think 2 or 3 times. So I'm looking at that, like, yeah, the calendar might be bad or I had a heavier week, but I could get down with A-list, and the math for me would still be like 3 something a movie with the amount of movies I'm seeing, you know?
Right.
So I think A-list, I mean, they lost a lot of goodwill this weekend. So I don't know if any, you know, ComScore, anyone could tell us like how many subscribers they've hemorrhaged, but A-list, if they do plan to keep it around, is plenty good deal. And even an Alamo Drafthouse, you know, a more boutique theater, like the dine-in options, they announced their Alamo season pass, and while it's not available yet, I think that's the ultimate, you know, effect of MoviePass, whether it lives or dies, is that it's affecting this change in the theater. And this is needed because movie tickets were way down last year. And, you know, I mean, what's the stat? I have it right here. Let's see. 11% of all movie tickets are bought by people that go 18 times a year. And they buy half of the total movies in the country. There's another 200 million people, 89% of moviegoers, that only see the blockbusters. They go maybe 4 to 5 times a year. And MoviePass, or now AMC's A-list, they bring those people in more. And that's what the movie business needs, because you're competing with YouTube and Netflix and Amazon and video games and everything else, obviously, right? So I think ultimately the effect of this subscription plan going to a theater is good for the industry, but MoviePass, the ultimate bargain, is gone.
Yeah, definitely too good to be true. And I mean, I think everybody knows it's going to be dead, at least as we know it. But yeah, like you said, I've seen people compare it to like the Napster of movie going. So it's definitely starting a good trend. I think subscription-based things are the way theaters need to go. And I'm excited to see what's going to come of it. I'll always remember fondly these like 8 months I was able to use MoviePass. So no ill feelings towards it. It was great for me in a lot of ways. So if you weren't in on it, like our guy Chris Labataglia got it like 3 weeks ago, shitty timing.
Yeah, I had another buddy as well. I was the one who convinced him to get it. And I was like, yeah, there'll be peak pricing now, so it's not quite as cheap, but you'll still get your money's worth. You like movies. Yeah. And he just got it. I don't think he's used it yet.
Came in Thursday. Why don't we jump to some music though? Because we got a lot to get through. Well, we start with Santigold. I Don't Want the Goldfire Sessions, her 4th album. She really blew up in 2008 with her debut album Santigold. I mean, before that, she was with the Philly-based band Stiffed, which is not a really well-known band, but I think you hear a lot of their sound, like that funk sound coming through. She's a very eclectic artist, and I'm sure if you've ever like listened to Santigold, the songs you'll probably know are either Les Artistes or Lights Out, I think is a really popular one.
Shove It as well.
Yep. And
she's sampled a lot. Like you recognize her tune even if you don't know it's Santigold.
I also ride really hard for the song You'll Find a Way. There's a great remix on the first album of that song, which is just phenomenal. But this album kind of hit me out of nowhere. I wasn't even aware Santigold was going to be dropping a new album. I was pleasantly surprised, though, because I thought this album had a lot of really great things about it. And mostly for me, it was production focus is what surprised me. Just how seamlessly it flowed together. But I mean, I think this is your first time really digging into her catalog. What was your take just on her earlier stuff?
Yeah. The first time I heard of Santigold was on her feature on Long Live A$AP Rocky's debut album. And then I didn't realize that now Santigold's 41. Like I didn't, really understand who she was. And she's interesting, like you said, because she's kind of existed like outside like the major label music industry. And she's someone who probably should have had a bigger career, but she didn't play ball, wasn't built up enough. I mean, she's on an indie label right now. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
she's getting a big push. And I think it's technically being called a mixtape, but either way, she has 3 albums in this, and solo anyway. And I think what stood out to me, both good and bad, I guess, it was pretty homogenous. The record, like it sounded this, it was kind of samey, I guess. So like that vibe is good, but it was really just that committed to that one vibe. And where I think like her earlier stuff is more like, I think it's like reggae fusion. It's reggae with other stuff, pop, R&B, dancehall. This new one, I think, is just really straight like poppy dancehall, right?
Yeah,
and it's good. Like I liked it a lot. I think it's quite enjoyable. You can just put it on at any point, and it sounds good.
Yeah, it's when Santigold broke out in 2008. She used to draw these huge crowds at festivals, and her shows were always huge. There's a point where she was opening for the Beastie Boys on one of their last tours around that time, and the crowds, like everybody would get there early to see Santigold. I mean, obviously the Beastie Boys are a huge draw at that time, and they still would be today if they could tour. Unfortunately, they're not around, or only one of them's left. But her momentum really fell off, and I think it is a little bit of that like homogenous. I mean, like there's some variation, but I think a lot of it comes back to her hits all kind of rest on what you talked about, that like poppy, more like dance hall, like 80s sound almost. Like there's like a real 80s pop sound to it. But I actually think that's where like her best songs come from this album too. Like Perfect Life and Crashing Your Party and Goldfire all kind of have a very similar like tone and beat to them. But I think that those songs just really popped off as songs that were really enjoyable and had a lot of fun with. And I think that's really what she's going for. It's just songs that people can enjoy. She does have a lot of different influences, and I think that's probably why it's hard for her to find a label that can promote her the way that she could be and probably should be promoted, because I think she could be a bigger star than she is. But she doesn't want to meld to like traditional standards, and I give her credit for that. I'd probably give this album like a I don't know, like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I thought it was a solid, strong effort. So probably her best one, or my favorite one since her debut. So check it out. Talk to me about your guy Denzel Curry, because I remember the name from his 2016 XXL. You can check out our take on that, SoundCloud.com/NowstalgiaPod. And I was really surprised by this album just because I wasn't that into him, and I left feeling like this guy has a really strong career ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely. So Denzel Curry's 3rd album, Taboo, dropped last Friday. Stylized TA 1300. I don't think anyone knows why he's doing it that way, but Taboo anyway. And yeah, I mean, Denzel Curry, I've been a fan ever since I really found out about him. And he was on the XXL 2016, but he wasn't the most famous guy on that list. That was the year for 21 and Uzi and Kodak and Yachty and Little Dicky and Designer, all guys bigger than him. So he kind of flew under the radar with that. But he's been good, and everyone's been fucking with him because he's yet another firebrand out of fucking Florida. He's from Miami, and he's someone who came up as part of the Raider clan, which was headed by Space Ghost Perp. That's one of the first, SoundCloud collectives, and they collaborated with ASAP Mob early on. That's how they kind of broke on the scene, and then Denzel broke off from that and went solo. And it's funny that because he actually was clapping back at Smoke Perp for saying, when Smoke Perp said he started SoundCloud rap, and Denzel's like, you spelled Raider Clan wrong, dog. Like, it was us. But either way, he's been around for a while, and he's always been really interesting. I don't think he has any one good project per se. Like, there's always been like a lot of good stuff on there, but nothing was really as cohesive as Taboo. And I mean, Imperial has probably really popped off for ULT and Naughty Head with Rick Ross. He's just got a bunch of bangers. Zenith with Joy Badass. And then his biggest hit today, it's actually off of one of his EPs. It's called Ultimate from 2015. You'd recognize the beat if you heard it. And coming into this, we just kind of wanted to see like what will Denzel Curry like do, because he obviously like thinks about it, and he's not using trap production. He's not talking about all the drugs and the money he spends. He never has. But like, what is next for him? And have Taboo come out, an album where like it's kind of a concept album, right? There's the 3 stage tracks in the album, right? The dark, the gray, and the black, the gray, and the white, I think is what he's calling it. And I was really impressed with this just because it was just basically more of what we get from Denzel Curry, what we expect from him. The rapid fire flows, the aggressive delivery, and just more of that, more variety. But there's like all different cadences he would do, whether he would switch up his flow mid-song, He would almost like sing some of his choruses in a sense, but it was really just kind of switching up how he was rapping. I was really impressed, and obviously the energy's there. But also, I think there's like some really cool lyrics in here, like Perks. That's an open attack against all the druggy culture in rap.
Yep.
And songs like Blackest Balloon and the lead single Cloud Cobain. Like, I think there's so much here, and I really got to listen to it again because I think it's pretty dense. But I was really impressed.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I mean, I think there's a lot of great things, and you touched on most of them. I think the thing that I was most taken aback by was just how, like you talked about his cadences, but I think there's an intensity that comes through as he raps and as he delivers his lines that he doesn't need to do it through like shouting or, kind of the ways like some of his contemporaries like XXX. I think sometimes there's times you just be basically like screamo, in a way. But he can deliver that feeling just through his voice, which I think is great. And I thought another thing that was great about it was that it was really layered production. The songs were like very intricate, the beats, and there was a lot of like things going on that he'd have like some like pianos in the background layered by like some not really trap but different like sort of drum beats throughout, and it just was really a delight to listen to. I listened to it twice this weekend because I wanted to get the feel in the headphones and in the car, and in the car I thought it was phenomenal. So definitely something to ride to for sure.
Yeah, I agree. The only song I didn't really like was Sirens. I thought that was where he went too singy. I was like, that's a miss. Like, kudos for trying it, but no, I don't think that worked. But yeah, other songs, Sumo, which was another lead single. That's just an ultimate, like, let me spit my shit as fast as possible, banger. And I thought Switch It Up, another one, which is really cool, where, as the title implies, he switches it up in the song. So I think Denzel Curry, he's, I don't think this is going to have big numbers first week. Like he's big on the internet. Rap fans know him, but he's not mainstream by any means. So, he's someone I like to tell people about just because I think he surprises anyone who listens to him. But yeah, he's much like we talked about, to a lesser extent with Wi-Fi's funeral, but Denzel Curry, I think, is even more obvious, where these are guys that even if they're not super big or super mainstream, you can tell they're going to have a long career just because they're actually really trying with the music they're making,
Absolutely, yeah. He's gonna be a solid artist for a while. Probably just to shout it out. Probably my favorite song on it was "Balloons," Black Balloons. One of the second song of the album really just caught my ear. So check that out. And we already put both songs from Santigold and Denzel Curry on our best of playlist. So that's Nowstalgia Best of 2018 on Spotify. Please follow and share with your friends. Okay, so why don't we talk about these movies here? Why don't we get to Eighth Grade first, because this is a movie that's been out for a couple weeks now, limited release, and then this was the first weekend where it was a wider scale release, I believe.
I mean, barely. It's only like 100, 200 theaters, so it's still not very wide, but yeah.
So this is Bo Burnham's first film that he's directed that's not a comedy special. And he wrote and directed this. It's currently sitting at a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes and 90% on Metacritic. I mean, if you want to talk about getting those good reviews, this is one that the critics are loving. And do you think that do you think that consensus is deserved, though?
I mean, I think it is. We're getting to Mission Impossible Fall, another movie that's I think at 97%,
98,
and yeah, whatever. So I didn't like love Eighth Grade the way like a lot of people do, but I still think it's good. It would get a positive review from me, and that is what Rotten Tomatoes calculates. So the consensus of positivity is what is correct, right? But this is not a 10 out of 10 movie for me, but that's not what a 98% tells you anyway. So I think that's fair, because I don't see how you really could watch this movie and be like, yeah, bad, 5 out of 10. No one would think that,
There's a lot to like about this movie, and I think probably my favorite thing was the performance by Elsie Fisher, who played the main character Kayla. We're going to be talking about Mission Impossible, which one of the things I think I like most about Mission Impossible is that it's like a movie where you can like suspend belief, and it doesn't have to be realistic, and you're like okay with it. Eighth Grade is almost too realistic. And that's the thing that I think Elsie Fisher brings, is her character felt so real. And I think anyone that goes through that time of their life and has any sort of social issue or any sort of feeling of insecurity, which almost everybody goes through at some point, can look at her and say, I can relate to that moment, right? I know exactly what she's feeling right there. And that's the thing that the movie does best, and almost to a point where it's uncomfortable at times. There were moments where I was like looking through my hands at the theater because I just felt so much secondhand embarrassment and awkwardness for her. Talk about your perception of Fisher's performance and maybe other performances in the movie that you like.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. This is the first movie of any, I think maybe not the first period, but the first movie of any, credible note that accurately captures how Gen Z kids act in the modern world. The way it portrays the effect of social media on the social life of young kids, and I think that's what's so impressive about the movie, is that it so nails that, which is something that like older people will always like throw stones at because they don't understand it. The massive anxiety that something like social media does to affect on people, and how the way people act on social media is very different from the way they act in real life. In a lot of cases, especially for kids now that are coming up in this world, and someone like me and you who came up just really before it blew up. So we kind of have the best of both worlds with that, right? Like we also know what a CD is and a VHS, as well as know how to use Instagram. We know we were both
a cassette tape.
Exactly. Yeah. But like these Gen Z kids, they're the next generation. They're that's not the world they know. But the fact that this movie actually shows you that is so impressive. And I don't know what to make of Bo Burnham as like a creator still. Like, he came up as a YouTube star, then became a popular stand-up, then he directed some stand-up specials from Jerron Carmichael and Mulaney. And I made this movie.
Chris Rock.
Oh, yeah, and Tambourine, right. And at this point, like, he's made this movie, and I think his sensibilities are really impressive. And the fact that he was able to cast it right. And, I thought his camera was pretty cool at times. The way he would move it around and really get close up on Elsie's face, I think was really effective. But I'm still not really sure where I stand on him. I think I just want to see more, but obviously a pretty stellar debut film by all accounts, obviously.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about another movie we did recently, which was we reviewed recently, which was Boots Riley's Sorry to Bother You. And that was his first film as well. And they're such different like scales. Eighth Grade is such a small story about one child becoming a teenager, and Boots Riley's looking at the story of a whole socioeconomic, political perspective and system that is affecting people in a lot of negative ways. But they each had these perspectives that I think tell important stories, and the stories about the moment. Like you said, Burnham's really catching Gen Z for the first time, like, and really telling the story accurately of what it's like to be Gen Z. And he does it in a lot of interesting ways, which I think give me a lot of hope for him as a creator moving forward. Like, you talk about that persona that you portray online, and the way he uses Kayla's YouTube videos to portray a different person online than she actually is when she's offline.
Right. Talking about self-confidence and bettering yourself when she's not taking any of her own advice.
Yeah. It's really smart. Really, really smart. I also thought like the tracking shot he did where she was walking to the pool was and the way he was like showing the people at the pool and the things that they were doing to kind of create this almost like zoo, like wilderness, like animalistic feeling was really great. So there's a lot of things, a lot of storytelling tricks in there that I think are really, really good. He also creates a lot of atmosphere, like when she's sitting in the back of the car with that older teenager who plays Truth and Dare with her. It really creates this feeling of like, oh shit, like, and like the lighting is great. It's fantastic. So I think he has at least as a videographer and storyteller, good career now. As a director, we'll see moving forward. Hopefully he's able to continue to translate it, but I also like that music cue he had whenever her crush came on screen. It was just like blast out of nowhere. I thought that was effective and smart. I think it's like, like they kind of hammer it home at the end when she's at the mall and they're like, how old were you when you got Snapchat? It's just something that's so prevalent in these kids' lives, and I think it's done well. And I think the only thing that was a little questionable to me was just that, like, I thought the relationship with her dad was a little, I don't want to say unrealistic, but I
kind of like raised an eyebrow a few times. Like, no fucking dad lets their kid wear headphones and use their phone at the table like that. You know, the dinner table.
You
like,
might be surprised.
I don't know, man. Like if anything, they just say like, "Hey, take your dinner and go watch TV with it." You know, like I don't know. I thought that was weird, especially because like by all accounts, he's like the most loving dad. You know,
right? So
like I don't know, their relationship seemed a little contrived to me, but it was fine. You know, I like the way it ended. It concluded.
I actually thought Josh Hamilton, who played her dad, was really, really good in terms of playing this kind of like this dad trying to figure out how to be a parent. You know, he was talking to her at the end, and almost got like a "Call Me by Your Name" type vibe with Mark Stahlberg's monologue at the end to Timothée Chalamet. You know, the one that
sure.
I got that kind of vibe when they're sitting around the fire. I thought he delivered that really well. And I think he just kind of playing this dad is trying to figure it out. And he even kind of admits that around the fire. Like, when your mom left, I was really scared and didn't know if you were going to be okay. And then you were. But I mean, check this movie out and support these small films. Cause I think, you know, we talked about Sorry to Bother You and a couple of other small films like Chappaquiddick that we saw earlier in the year. And these are important stories to be telling and to be supporting. So, definitely. And yeah, you said the soundtrack, I think just in general, it really caught like the Gen Z feel. So a lot of really great work on this, a lot of things to like. So check it out. And a movie that a lot more people checked out.
Yep.
Mission Impossible Fallout. Loading up the fist. Let's go.
That was improvised, apparently.
Really? Well,
yeah.
I think we can both agree Henry Cavill was fantastic in this, but
I think this is easily his best role. He was fantastic.
I agree. Do you think it was better than the CGI Superman lip from Justice League?
I think, you know, was that mustache necessary to his role as whatever his name was, Walker?
100% yes.
No, but did he keep it in Rocket? Fuck yeah. No, I was really impressed with Cal. But yeah, I mean, overall, this movie, you've been seeing the hype. I think it has, last I checked, 248 positive reviews to 7 negative reviews. So like we said a little earlier, that's consensus from the critics. It also has a series high A cinema score and a series high with the box office, $61.5 million first week. And one last thing, it also has a better audience breakdown, 55% male, as opposed to Rogue Nation, which was over 60. So that's a better thing to see in terms of, you know, a more broad audience. So I think people were excited about this movie, and it delivers. It's one of the best action movies I've ever seen, I think, bar none.
Do you think the people that wrote the 7 bad reviews like didn't know what movie they were going into?
Yeah, I'd actually love to read them, just because you always see that, right? Like someone like gives any movie that's not Oscar bait like a bad review for something obvious and dumb. It's like, yeah, we know who Ethan Hunt is. Yeah, maybe he's still not the most layered character in the world.
Right.
It's not a negative to literally anyone who watches this film. That's not why we're there.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, good question. I'd like to follow up on that and see what the hell they said.
Yeah, so this is Mission Impossible 6 movie. It's over a 22-year span, starting in 1996. Mission Impossible, the first one, came out, which, you know, at the time kind of caught Cruise at the peak of his career. I mean, he had just come, was it right before or just after Jerry Maguire? I'm forgetting.
Just before. And he also then did Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut.
Yep.
So like it's funny because, you know, obviously anyone who knows movies knows like 80s Cruise was like awards baity, right? Like A Few Good Men and Born the 4th of July and
Rain Man.
Yeah, of course. And that's obviously following up the blow up with Risky Business and then Top Gun, right? But he like stride away from the action stuff after Top Gun. And then Mission Impossible comes out, you know, from Brian De Palma, of all people, too. Yeah. And it's like, all right, now Cruise, the biggest movie star, is finally going to do movie star movies. But then he goes and does Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut. And it's interesting just because, you know, up until now, he hadn't been really playing into that. But then you look at his filmography after Mission Impossible 2, which came out in 2000, when the movie gets the series gets more action packed. The first one's more espionage, right? And then he starts making all these these action movies, and that's just who Tom Cruise is now, right? Like he kind of started doing the Liam Neeson late career thing before Liam Neeson did, which I think is kind of funny. But I think this is perhaps the best. Is definitely the best, stab he's done at this so far.
Do you think Mission Impossible is the best franchise or movie franchise out right now?
Yeah, I saw some of those takes going around. If you want to say best action franchise, I think probably yes, just because if you think about the action franchises, the most successful one is Fast and Furious. But I think the Mission Impossible movies are by and large better.
Oh, definitely.
I like Fast and Furious. I find them very entertaining, but there's a lot more going on in Mission Impossible. And after that, like, what action franchises do we have? We have a lot of stuff that's continued from the 80s, like Die Hard or Predator, but a lot Terminator. A lot of those series still have a lot of low points, a lot of bad films. And like Mission Impossible, the worst ones, I think most people would agree, is 2, and that's still watchable, still entertaining. Right. It's not like that's Terminator Salvation. So
it's interesting because 2 actually probably had more of influence on what the films are now than
definitely
like 1. John Woo really brought this action-packed, Cruise hanging off the cliff in the first opening scene. So it kind of like set the table for what these movies, the direction they'd overall become. And like the scope of it really is like 1 was like this great beginning, 2 kind of brought in like the huge stunts, and then 3 through 6 have all just got kind of built on themselves, getting better and better, finding the correct pacing, finding like a suaveness to it. You think about like Nation probably being the epitome of that, where they're in the tuxedos in the opera.
That scene's dynamite too.
Amazing. Just fantastic. So it's gotten better and better, and it's kind of almost amazing because Ghost Protocol, I mean, I'm thinking about where these movies kind of fall in like my rankings, and like I think like Ghost Protocol is just above Rogue Nation, and Fallout's probably my number 1, but all 3 of those at any point you could really put over the other, I think.
Yeah,
what you like.
And to keep going, I mean, Mission Impossible 306, that's J.J. Abrams' directorial debut. Ghost Protocol 2011 finally comes back, and after like a contract negotiation, Cruise gets back into it, and that's by Brad Bird. It was his first movie stepping away from animation, right? Post Incredibles, and then Rogue Nation 2015, that's Chris McQuarrie. And Chris McQuarrie had helped like rewrite Ghost Protocol, and he comes in now and he does Rogue Nation himself. And I think I have Rogue Nation just ahead of GP, but again, they're close. They're both great. And then Chris McQuarrie comes back for Fallout. He's the first returning director in this series of 6 movies, which is pretty unheard of. I mean,
he's worked with Cruise a lot though.
Yeah, he's worked 9 so much stuff, whether it's directorial debut, or he wrote the script, or he worked on the script of Fish, whether credited or uncredited. He's worked on with a ton. And it's we said whether it's the good franchise, I think it's like the 26th highest grossing franchise in the world. Like the 3 Iron Man movies have grossed more than the 6 Mission Impossibles, for example. Yeah. And despite that, I think it's the best action franchise. I wouldn't say it's the best franchise overall, but yeah, it's so weird that like it keeps getting better like this. And it's not like Fast and Furious, where Fast and Furious is getting better because it's getting more ridiculous and more absurd. That's really not what Mission Impossible is doing, because Fallout, again, we'll get to the movie in a second. Fallout like is so tactful and smart with its frenetic pacing and its set pieces that it just seems like it's like peak blockbuster filmmaking. No one would say Fast 5 is peak blockbuster, despite the fact that I think it's fantastic. So really impressed, and it's really a fascinating series to kind of take a step back and like look and see how it's progressed.
And like I mentioned before, it embraces what it means to kind of be a movie that you can suspend belief. You can go and just tell a story and have fun. You don't need to, not everything needs to make sense. I mean, you can see Ethan basically get blown up and thrown into a car, and he's just like walks away, gets up 2 seconds later. They wear these ridiculous masks, like even in Fallout, when, I mean, like spoiler, there's a part where, I mean, there's so many like just outlandish and ridiculous things, but it just works because they set the tone that you're just coming in, just enjoy the movie, just enjoy the stunts, and that's really what you come for. I wonder if, going back to those negative reviews, if people were like, that there's no way that a mask could be that realistic, or like I would love to see like that sort of stuff, whatever their complaints are. Why don't we jump into Fallout specifically, though? Because I think we've given enough of our take on it. I mean, this movie, it's number one at the box office right now, 61.5 million domestically, 153.5 million worldwide. We told you 98% Rotten Tomatoes. People like this movie a lot. And I think if anything, it's Cavill's performance. It's the fact that they really give a lot of people different time to shine. But the set pieces in this are amazing, just unbelievable. I mean, there's a bunch of them to pick from, but which one was probably your favorite?
Right. And I think what's so impressive about the movie is that it's long. It's like, what, 2 hours, 20 minutes? It does not feel long because of the pace, because of the number of set pieces, because of just how blatantly entertaining it is at all times. I mean, and it starts off so well. Like, you have that Halo jump.
Yep.
Which Cruise actually did. He, between practice jumps and getting the shot right, he jumped 106 times out of the plane, which is insane. You know, no green screen. There's a cameraman jumping with him, really close to him, filming it. Like, you read about how they had to like get that in focus, and they had to put lights in his mask so they could see his face, obviously, because it's a movie.
Right.
And I mean, that scene was awesome. And then, and you remember when the tube came out for his oxygen? That was the real tube as well. Like, there was no, like, that was the real oxygen he needed. And after that, you have the fucking bathroom scene, which where that Asian actor, I don't remember his name, but he kicks Cavill and Cruise.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And that's funny because, like, we didn't really know what that scene was per se, because all we knew was we had the, Cavill pumping his arms up, right? It was becoming a meme. But, it's kind of like people are asking him to do it the way, like, people are asking Chadwick Boseman to do Wakanda Forever, right? And then to have that scene, which we don't really know what's happening in the scene from the trailers. We think maybe Cruise is fighting Cavill already. And it's so frenetic. And I think what's just cool about this movie is that Cruise, throughout it, Ethan Hunt, you see Ethan, he is older. Yeah, he's a little slower, and he's low-key washed, getting his ass kicked a few times. And I mean, that scene was killer.
Yeah. The choreography in that scene. I mean, if it's not up for an award, that's a travesty, because like the way that they use that pipe at one point, and like he swings and the guy catches it and like flips him around. I was like, that scene did not disappoint. And then, like the way that they had to cover it up, and you have Rebecca Ferguson's is it Ilsa? Yeah, come in and save the day. Just an amazing scene. And we didn't even talk about like the helicopter chase. Like, you have the jump, but like the helicopter chase at the end in was it Kumar or
Kashmir, northern India?
Yeah, which, I mean, just unbelievable. If I didn't see this in IMAX, I'm guessing you probably didn't, but everybody I've heard that seen in IMAX was like in awe of this.
Yeah.
It's just,
I think that's
beautifully shot.
That's probably the most like impressive set piece the series has ever done, and probably it's one of the best stunts in action movie history, I would say. And I think some people would still have the Burj Khalifa climb from Ghost Protocol ahead of this.
Yeah.
Because Cruise also did that. But I think this is so impressive because this really, like a lot like transformative acting roles get lauded, right? Whether it's someone like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, really succumbing to the elements and being out there as Inarritu films him, basically freezing his ass off, right? Or you have something like Christian Bale where he loses 100 pounds for The Pianist or something like that, right? This Cruise learned how to fly a helicopter in like 5 weeks, doing 16-hour days. He would have 2 crews with him because the only, 2 8-hour shifts. He was doing 2 8-hour shifts for 6 weeks to learn how to fly a helicopter, and it's just like his that kind of dedication. There's not enough done about it. Like a lot of people like to clown on Cruise because of like the Scientology shit, and like he has had some weird personal things with his marriages. Like not denying that, but his dedication to his craft is so impressive. And like let's not forget, he broke his ankle making this movie, and that shot's in the film.
Yeah,
like when he jumps across the building when he's running on the roofs, and he almost misses. He breaks his ankle and he realizes he needs to finish the shot. He climbs up and you see him do that limp for the first time in the movie. He limped. Oh, he's hurt? Oh, because he actually broke his fucking ankle. Yeah. He finished the shot. And they went on an 8-week hiatus, and, they had to pay the crews the whole time. So they didn't take another job, obviously. And then McQuarrie just started editing what they had while Cruise recovered. But like his dedication to this movie, like they're going to keep making these, obviously, given the critical and commercial success of Fallout. But like I hope he doesn't fucking die doing this, because he's already done a lot of crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when you think about stunts in movies that actors actually do, I think Cruise is probably like top 3 from just Mission Impossible movies alone. Just unbelievable.
And he's 56. It's not like he's young.
Yeah, I know. It's funny to see like all the roles that certain people were playing at his age, and then Tom Cruise looks like he could be like 40, 45. Dude just doesn't age at this point. Or he ages, but in like the most graceful way you've ever seen. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, why don't we talk a little bit more about what we liked about Cavill? I mean, obviously, yeah, he plays August Walker, and he's this huge guy, and basically he's introduced as this just like he could give you one punch and it could kill you kind of person. But really, I think what made it good was the way that he kind of played I mean, spoiler alert, the heel turn in this. Like the whole time you're kind of like, is this more of a Jeremy Renner, like he's going to be a sidekick to Cruise, or is this? And then eventually he ends up being a villain, kind of like most people in these movies too. Cruise,
right? And like from the trailers, like there's that money shot of him like holding like the M60, the minigun, right?
Yeah,
and the helicopter. So I'm like pretty sure he was shooting at Cruise there, but why? So like I figured something happened, but yeah, I think it's just like the most like multi-layered role Cavill's done. Like Cavill's done some good stuff. I mean, he was on The Tudors, and I liked Immortals. I thought he was really good with Armie Hammer and Man from U.N.C.L.E., right? And he's not my problem with Superman. I think, you know, the Superman DCU's issues have been more with writing and plotting than Cavill. I think Cavill's great as Superman. But this, I mean, he's just given a lot more to work with than I expected. Yeah, I was expecting more of him to be more like Renner's Brand, who, by the way, didn't come back for this because he had scheduling conflicts with Infinity War, the movie he wasn't in. So good answer. But he's given a lot to do, both action-wise and, you know, carrying the plot. He's an integral to the plot. And then when he has the heel turn, I think it's a really well-constructed twist, a nice callback to the masks that have been throughout the series. And then when he becomes the full villain, he just fucking takes it to another level. Yeah. So, yeah, I thought he was incredibly effective. And that, you know, this is really fun movie, too, because this is the first Mission Impossible movie that actually feels connected to a previous film, right? Like, obviously, characters have come back. Like, Ving Rhames
has been in almost every single one.
Ving Rhames has been in every one because he had a cameo in 4.
Right.
And Cruise obviously is in all of them. But then, like, yeah, like Michelle Monaghan comes back a little bit as his ex-wife, right? And then Elsie Foss comes back from Rogue Nation. And then so does fucking Solomon Lane, the bad guy of Rogue Nation. He's actually integral to this plot. Right. So it actually felt like a world we had been in. And they were just building on this world. Like Alec Baldwin comes back again. Then they bring in Angela Bassett and bring in Cavill. And like, it was a level up to me. I was so impressed. And again, that's despite the fact, separate from the fact that it's so entertaining and so ridiculous with these amazing stunts that are real stunts. It's just so well choreographed, both in the air and the car chase. Again, that Paris car chase was money too, with the motorcycle. When it goes around the fucking arc. Like, oh man, wonderful action. Yeah,
the action is amazing. But I also really liked the moments that they gave each of the characters, and especially, you know, if you watch the first couple, they had these top-notch actresses, and they didn't really utilize them. And I feel like the actresses got a lot more to do. Like Vanessa Kirby in this one as White Widow was fantastic and electric. Every time she was on the screen, I couldn't look away from her, and she just like stole every scene she was in. I love Rebecca Ferguson as Elsa. I think she's a great character, and you know, you start to learn a little bit more about her motives and what she's trying to accomplish. And then you get to see Michelle Monaghan come back, and she's playing this doctor in a different country, and really adds this emotional weight to the last scene, and you know, adds another level of stakes to it. I mean, you're saving the world from nuclear war, which is high enough stake as is, but then really trying to save your Ethan's wife. Just some really great things. And Ving Rhames, who for the whole series has kind of been like put on the shelf, just kind of like
in the van,
playing the conscience. Yeah, in the van, literally. Gets to be like carry a lot of the emotional heft of the movie, which I thought was a really smart choice and really well deserved. He's put a lot of work into this.
Definitely.
I mean, there's a lot of really, and Simon Pegg also with. I thought he brought a lot of levity to the scenes he was in.
That's why he's there, and he's good at it. You know. I think they probably gave Benji more due in some of the earlier ones since he came in with Ghost Protocol, but he's still effective. And you know, another scene, we talk about the action so much because obviously it's the selling point, but early on when they have that fake out with the nuclear weapons with Wolf Blitzer, right? And fake the whole hospital room in the news reading, little fake news, right? That kind of and with the mask of Wolf Blitzer, that gave me more like Mission Impossible 1 vibes.
Yep.
You know, or espionage, trickery aspect to it. They call it back to the mask again when they finally out Cavill.
Yep.
So it was and again, they can keep this story going with the Apostles because we still don't know much about those villains. They just keep building on it. So I'm really looking forward to the next one. But in the meantime, I would love to see this again. But honestly, one of the big winners that no one's really talking about for this is Paramount. This is Paramount's film, and Paramount, of course, their big money maker has been Transformers, which is coming out next year. In December. Bumblebee, a smaller scale one with Haley Steinfeld, and they took Transformers 7 off the calendar. So Mission Impossible could be their biggest franchise moving forward at the moment. So they're happy that it's getting critical attention and doing well. Again, a franchise best opening weekend. So good win for Paramount. They needed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go see this film. If you like action films, if you like fun, I think just go enjoy it. Turn your brain off a little bit and enjoy this just for the amazing action like we talked about. And
again, it's not just like dumb action the way Fast and Furious. I think it's very smart, very calculated the way it affects the plot,
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I didn't mention before, but I think makes these films good is that they bring in elements of different types of stories that are really intriguing. They have a mystery element in almost every single one, trying to figure out like the whodunit or who's who at any given time. They have like heist scenes in certain ones. So the Mission Impossible franchise in general is it's action, but it can bring a lot more to the table. And yeah, depending on what you really want to get out of it, you can get that. I mean, even at points like love stories. So I think that's the weakest part. But
did the end get you the fake out with the nuclear mushroom cloud / just being the sun? Did that fake you out? It got me for a second. I was like, oh fuck, they did that.
I mean, if they had done it, it would have been the ballsiest move. I mean, they're pretty much just like ending the franchise right there because they're killing off all the main characters. No, one of the things I always laugh most at in these is just the amount, like how time passes in that film universe. I mean, the 15 minutes and they rode a helicopter, had like a 10-minute fight on a cliff, and
there's a scene that under it, this scene's happening, right?
Yeah,
and that's another thing that like. There's some common things throughout the series. There's the cold open. Rogue Nation, he literally boards a plane from the outside, right? And this one has it again, right before the title card, for they actually do like a traditional sequence, kind of like James Bond. And then there's also the race against time at the end. This one literally got done the last second.
What was it? Ghost Protocol, where they have to get somewhere like a minute 30. They need to go like 3 miles, and he's like, "We can make it." And you're like, I was like, "No, you literally can't. Nothing on Earth can get you there that fast." But Ethan finds a way, man. Like he always does.
So, that being said, are you stoked for Tom Cruise's next role coming out next July? Do you know what it is?
I'm not aware. Is it Live, Die, Repeat? Sequel?
Not Edge of Tomorrow 2, which I don't know if there's any movement on that. No, it's Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, right. Actually, I didn't know that.
Cruise is back as Maverick. Val Kilmer's back as Iceman. And a hotly coveted role, Miles Teller is Goose's son.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see it for sure. It's interesting. I don't know how much I really want to. Yeah, I don't know how much I want to see a fighter pilot movie, but just those three in general, I'll watch.
And I think that's what the plot's about the lack of necessity for plane-to-plane combat in today's world. I think that's kind of the crux of the film.
Right. So, no, it'll be interesting. I mean, pretty much anything Cruise is in is going to be good. I mean, like you said, he dedicates more to the roles he does than almost any other actor. So
yeah, it's interesting because this is his only franchise that's really worked, right? Like Jack Reacher, the second one totally bombed critically and commercially, and that's probably over. The Mummy didn't do very well in the whole Dark Universe franchise from Universal, was DOA, right? Then he made like American Made last year, which wasn't a franchise film, but was critically reviewed, but didn't do as well at the box office. So it's weird that like he's kind of like struggled to make more of those franchise films. And like Edge of Tomorrow like really stands out as something, right? And like he had Oblivion, which was like I could say like a near miss in that regard, but still good. So I don't know. It's weird watching his career now where he has, I mean, this is his second biggest opening weekend behind War of the Worlds. He has not had $100 million opening weekend in his whole career, which sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, that's bizarre.
But like one last thing, do you think you can make Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise? You know that they tried, whether officially or not, with Renner, and that obviously didn't work out. Do you think you could do it? I think he's so synonymous with Ethan Hunt and like his ability to do all these stunts. In theory, you could continue it, but would anyone be as interested?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that when I was driving home yesterday, and I was trying to think of a franchise that's really handed it off and it's done well. You think about Indiana Jones, they kind of had Shia LaBeouf and they attempted the handoff with that one a little bit, and that didn't really land. And I can't really think of a franchise where it's gone well. So I'd probably say right now, no. But if you found the right person to kind of be his underling and see, the hard part about it is like Star Wars, they basically were like, this is the next 3, and these are the people you're following, and Luke and Leia are tertiary characters, and they just made the decision for you. But if you go about it and you're like, let's see how this person tests out, and the other person's still there as the main character, people are always going to want that person to be it.
Yeah.
It's almost like they kind of need to make a choice with it. I don't know who would be the right person to take it over. I go to Joel Edgerton comes to mind as somebody, but he might be a little too old. So maybe
he's in his 40s.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's the thing too. It's like a lot of like there's not a lot of like super hot American young actors. Right. A lot of them are British kids. And either way, like a lot of like the hot young actors, they take a while. Like Miles Teller's already in his 30s, Like the people he's competing with this were like Nicholas Hoult and like Dylan O'Brien, the kid from The Maze Runner, right? Like it's weird seeing the kind of inability for young actors like that to really catch on with these franchises. So I don't know, it's interesting.
What if it was Taron Egerton, but he they go to like the British side of it, whatever that is.
I like Taron Egerton, but we'll see. I'm not hopeful about that Robin Hood film he's in after the trailer. So
he might need to do a franchise then.
True.
We'll see.
Well, they're making Kingsman 3, so love that still.
I saw Kingsman 2 recently, by the way. It was enjoyable. I mean, it was fine.
That's shit that can get ridiculous for sure.
Oh, I mean that's absurd. But talk about suspending belief. Anyways, I think to kind of sum up the day, MoviePass, dead. Santigold, pretty good. Denzel Curry, good. 8th Grade, good. And Mission Impossible, a lot of fun, very good.
Yes.
So a lot of good culture to be talking about this week. So if you want to give us some feedback, hit us up on Twitter at NowstalgiaPod. Go to our YouTube page and subscribe. Leave some comments. We like to interact with people on there. And also give us a rating and review on iTunes. We really appreciate all the feedback. So were you going to say something?
So we got a big week coming up, dog.
Fill me in.
Well, 3 big albums in the hip-hop space on August 3rd. YG's Stay Dangerous, Mac Miller's Swimming. Excited for both of those. Some lead singles are out already. And then just announced today, Travis Scott's much in the works Astroworld is finally coming this Friday. And, he went to Hawaii to make this album, working with a lot of talented people. I have very high hopes for this. So I'm excited for all those records, but Astroworld's at the top of my list now. But also on Sunday, we have the Succession finale.
Right.
On 8/5. We haven't talked about Succession yet. We kind of got into it. It was already well in its way, so we're going to do a full season review next week of Succession. And also next Monday is the season 4 premiere of Better Call Saul.
So maybe we can do a little preview for that. I should try and catch up on that this week. So I mean, there's a lot to talk about. So be following us and share us with friends so that you can all be discussing as well. Until next week, Gucci.
Oh God.